شاء الله لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل ونعم المولى ونعم النصير. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله قاصم الجبارين مبين الظالمين وطريق العالمين، والصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على النبي الأمي المكي المدني الهاشمي الذي سمي في السماوات بأحمد وفي الأرضين بأبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الأطهرين، سيما أولهم أمير المؤمنين وآخرهم بقية الله في الأراضين، روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب قدمه الفداء، ورحمة الله على محبيهم ومواليهم وشيعتهم أجمعين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم العنين. أما بعد, for the happiness of Hazrat Zahra Marziyah, for the enlightenment of the graves of your Mahumeen, of the graves of the Shuhada, Ulama and Siddiqeen, for the safety of the followers of Ahlul Bayt around the world, and for the safety and the hastening of the reappearance of Hazrat Baqiyatullah al-A'zam, Arwahun al-Fida, please recite your loudest salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. All praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who is Rahman and the one who is Rahim. We've reached our third night in this series of lectures, and over the past two nights we have discussed the aspect of removing the cultural understanding of Abu Abdullah and to try and uncover the true message of Imam al-Hussein, to try and understand who really is Abu Abdullah, what is it that he went to Karbala for, and all of those associated things that were given to Abu Abdullah as a result of his stance, as a result of that godly stance that he took. And yesterday we said that the main reason for Karbala, or the main reason for Sayyid al-Shuhada going to Karbala, was because of that love that he had for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that love that manifested in his actions and those that were around him that held on to the coattails of Abu Abdullah. They too became immortal, they too achieved that immortality. And I said yesterday that today we will begin to look at the criteria for that love for Ahlul Bayt, because it's not just that we love the Imams and then that's it. When we look at the narrations about the love of the Imams, they're very plain, they're very straightforward. You know, we have hundreds of riwayats talking about the benefits of loving Ahlul Bayt, the benefits of having that hubb within our hearts for Ahlul Bayt. One of the narrations that we come across, it says that the one who Allah has given our love to, the one that is given, the one that Allah has bestowed the love of Ahlul Bayt. First point being that this love isn't something that a person just walks in somewhere and then picks up. It is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestows upon a person. Similarly with knowledge and things. Knowledge isn't something where you go and you gain it. No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran says that ilm is nur. It is nur that Allah places within the hearts of individuals, of people that Allah blesses, and He gives them this ni'mah of knowledge. Rather, if you go elsewhere and you gain it, it's just information. Knowledge only becomes knowledge when Allah illuminates the heart. This is why you see many people that embark upon the journey of tazkiyat al-nafs, of purification of their soul. You find that they begin to unlock realities and understandings of Allah, of the religion, without needing to be taught. One of the greatest examples of that is none other than Sayyidah Zainab salamullah alayha, where Imam al-Sajjad is addressing her, Ya Ammati Zainab, oh Aunt Zainab, you are an alima ghayr mu'allama. You are an alima that was never taught. Your knowledge has been bestowed upon you by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a direct tafsir or understanding of that verse of the Holy Quran, that knowledge is something that Allah places within the heart of an individual. It's not gained through formal education per se. That knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes only and only from Allah Himself. The ma'rifah of Allah comes only from Allah Himself. In Dua Abu Hamza Thumali we say, بِكَ عَرَفْتُكَ وَأَنْتَ دَلَلْتَنِي إِلَيْكَ, that it is through you I knew you, and it is you who have shown me the ways to you and have invited me towards you. Meaning that no one can gain the ma'rifah of Allah, no one can do the hamd of Allah, no one can praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala outside of the dhikr of Allah. Nowhere else do you find this, that when you try and praise a person, you always try and associate their praise to something else that is better. But yet when you try and praise Allah, you have to say Alhamdulillah. You have to associate Allah towards that praise. So the narration says that the one who Allah has given our love to, He has given him the khair of the dunya and the akhirah. The one that possesses the hubb of Ahlul Bayt, the hubb of Ali Muhammad, has the khair, has the good of the dunya and the akhirah. And then the narration continues, says, and doubt not that they are amongst the people of Jannah, the ones that have the hubb of Ali Muhammad, the ones that have the love of Ali Muhammad are amongst the people of Jannah. Yesterday I gave you another narration where the Imam, speaking about Imam al-Hussein salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi, when Imam Sadiq, he says, Man arad Allah bi khair, when Allah wants to give His abd the news of good, of khair, قذف في قلبه حب الحسين, He places within the heart of that person the love of Imam al-Hussein, وَزِيَارَتِهِ, and the love of the ziyarat of Imam al-Hussein. It is when Allah wants to give knowledge, that khair, towards His abd, He places the love of Imam al-Hussein in his heart, and the love of that ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein in his heart. And then when He wants to bring bad upon that individual, wants to bring su' upon that individual, says He removes the love of Abu Abdullah and replaces it with both. Replaces it with hatred towards Abu Abdullah, a repulsion towards all things that Abu Abdullah stood for. And there are so many other narrations like this where people have come to the Holy Prophet. One of them I came across where someone comes towards Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. These brothers, if you just listen to Brother Imad and come forward, that way I can carry on with the lecture and not get distracted by you as well.
Sorry, brother.
Thank you, no problem. Please recite salawat. So someone comes to Rasulullah, they say to him, Ya Rasulullah, how is it that I can be placed amongst the dwellers of heaven? How is it that I can be from amongst Ahlul Jannah? Rasulullah replies to him, he says, La ilaha illallah mukhlisah. He says, say La ilaha illallah with ikhlas, with sincerity. Have that conviction, that sincerity when you say La ilaha illallah. And so he asks for more. He says, Ya Rasulullah, can you explain this? وَمَا إِخْلَاصُهَا, what is the criterion for this ikhlas? What is it that you need to be from amongst the sincere? And Rasulullah says, the first thing that you need is that you follow that which I have been made a prophet for, i.e. your wajibat, your salah, your sawm. You do all of these things that I have ordered you to do. And then the second thing, وَحُبُّ أَهْلِ بَيْتِي, the second thing that you need in order to achieve sincerity is the love of my Ahl Bayt. And then he carries on. He says, however, the latter, i.e. the hubb of Ahl Bayt, the love of Ahl Bayt is greater than the first. And it is easier to achieve sincerity in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the root of the love of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. This is why in her khutbah fadakiyya, Sayyidah Zahra, she says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah kalimatun ja'ala al-ikhlas ta'wilaha, says that I bear witness that there is no God worthy of worship but Allah, a statement whose true interpretation can only be understood through action. When a person's actions say La ilaha illallah, when a person's actions are reflecting La ilaha illallah, that when I wake up in the morning, it is for the sake of Allah. When I go to work, it is for the sake of Allah. When I go and I pray, it is for the, and I say, I pray for the sake of Allah. Many a times, when we go to pray, our minds are elsewhere. Every time I stand to pray, Allahu Akbar. Okay, after I finish this, I'm going to go back to work, and oh, that's where I left my keys. Yeah? And I haven't even finished Surah Al-Hamd. And my mind's gone everywhere, and then I'm going, ruku, sajda. Oh wait, how many sajdas did I do? I can't remember, because my mind's elsewhere. I don't have that sincerity in my action. I don't have that sincerity in front of Allah. I'm just ticking a box. And so without that sincerity, without that focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I am not able to achieve or unlock the true essence of La ilaha illallah. And this love, that is the love of Ahlul Bayt, is a criterion, it is needed, it is a requirement for this La ilaha, for this ikhlas, to understand La ilaha illallah. Because there are none that can explain Allah, there are none that can explain this journey towards Allah other than Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. As the sixth Imam says, he says, Nahnu asma Allah. We are the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala manifest within the dunya. We are manifestations of the names of Allah. With us, the dunya started, and with us the dunya shall end. There is none that will understand Allah except through us. None would have worshipped Allah except had it not been for our worship. Other narrations said the malaika would not know how to worship Allah had it not been for our worship, had it not been for the way that we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is through us that the malaika learnt how to say La ilaha illallah. It is through us how the malaika learnt to say Alhamdulillah. It is through us the malaika learn how to say Subhanallah. Says no one can understand Allah but Ahlul Bayt. So this hubb of Ahlul Bayt has benefits. One of them we mentioned, Jannah. In a narration, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi says to Salman, says, حُبُّ أَهْلِ بَيْتِي يَنْفَعُ فِي سَبْعَةِ مَوَاطِنِ, says that the love of my Ahlul Bayt will help you, Salman, at 7 places. It will help you at 7 places. عند الوفاة, the first place that the love of Ahlul Bayt will help you is at the time of your death. وعند القبر, the second place that it will help you will be in your grave. When the person is placed in the grave and everyone walks away, you remember the lectures that we did on the barzakh here, that a person is in the grave all alone, nothing there, the adab of the qabr come, 5 lights descend within his grave. 5 lights come, and they begin to fight off the adab of the qabr. He turns to the one on one side, says, who are you? Says, I am your salah. The other, I am your sawm. The other says, we are your hajj and your umrah. Another says, I am your zakat. And then he turns to the biggest of them, says, the strongest of you. Who are you? The one that is above my head, that is the strongest at fighting away all the adab within this qabr. He turns around and says, I am your wilayat of Ali ibn Abi Talib. I am that love that you had of Amir al-Mu'mineen in the dunya. Come manifest in your grave to defend you against all of these difficulties. Says, وَعِنَّ الْقَبْرِ, our love will help you in the grave. وَعِنَّ النُّشُورِ, the day that you are raised, we shall be there to aid you. وَعِنَّ الْحِسَابِ, and we will be there to help you at your accounting. وَعِنَّ الْكِتَابِ, and we will be there when your book of deeds is handed to you. Because on Yawm al-Qiyamah, where it says, and their book of deeds shall be handed to them, it is their imams that shall hand them. The imams of every nation shall be given the book of deeds to hand out to the people of their nation, to hand out to their believers. It says, وَعِنْدَ الْكِتَابِ, وَعِنْدَ الْمِيزَانِ, and we will be there at the time of the scales. And each of these require a lecture in and of themselves as to how it is the mizan, how the scale works on Yawm al-Qiyamah, and how Ahlul Bayt come and they do their shifa'ah on the Day of Judgment, and how the scales of the mu'mineen are tipped in favor of them entering into Jannah. This is a whole lecture in itself. We don't have time. وَعِنْدَ الصِّرَاطِ, and we shall come and aid you upon the Sirat. The Sirat is 7,000 years long, with 7 stages. Each stage 1,000 years. The first stage, about the love of Ahlul Bayt, about your salah. Another stage about your family relations. Another stage about your soul. Another stage about the charity that you gave. 1,000 years a person will be questioned on Yawm al-Qiyamah upon the Sirat. Because that day is equivalent to 50,000 years. One day equivalent to 50,000 years. 7,000 of those years will be spent upon the Sirat. Upon that bridge. That is thinner than a hair, that is sharper than a sword. And people will be questioned. But Ahlul Bayt say, no, we will come and aid you. Those that love us, we will come and aid you upon the Sirat. Harith Hamadani comes to Amir al-Mu'mineen, says to him, he enters, and Amir al-Mu'mineen says to him, Harith, you're back again. Meaning that Harith Hamadani had visited Amir al-Mu'mineen slightly before that as well. Says to him, Harith, you're back again in the heat of the afternoon. Says, what has brought you back? Says, why? He says, Hubbuka ya Ali. Says, your love has brought me back, ya Ali. Amir al-Mu'mineen looks towards him. He says, Harith, remember one thing. That if you are truthful in what you say in regards to our love, then we shall aid you at 3 places. Says the first place we will aid you, Amir al-Mu'mineen points towards his throat. Says the time of your death. Because the final place where Malakul Maut rips the soul from the person's body is at the throat. Says we will aid you at that time. The second place that we will aid you, Harith, is upon the Sirat. And then the third place is وَعِنْدَ الْحَوْضِ, and we will aid you at the pool of Kawthar. Says Harith, I will be there for you at every single one of these stages if you are true in your love for us. But what does it mean to be true in the love of Ahlul Bayt? There are criterion. It's not just that I say Ya Ali, Ya Hussein, and that's it. It's not just that I come to the Majlis and that's it. It is not just that I come and do matam or I sponsor or do something and that is it. My hisab is easy, my sirat is easy, my mizan is easy, my life, my death, everything becomes easy. It's not as simple as that. There are 5 criteria which we will look at partly today and tomorrow. 5 stages. And there are many other things that we come across, but 5 main ones I want to talk about. Gathering together and doing a jama', gathering together all the different narrations of Ahlul Bayt. We can go through 5 tangible stages. 5 tangible criterion for the love of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. The first stage is that the love of Ahlul Bayt, or we love Ahlul Bayt for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not for them in and of themselves, but that my love for Ahlul Bayt is based upon the love that I have for Ahlul Bayt. A group of individuals come to Imam al-Hussein salawatullah wa salamu alayhi. And they have broken into 2. One half of this group, of this tribe, had gone towards Muawiyah. The second group had come to Imam al-Hussein. When they come to, and this is obviously during the reign of Muawiyah, before obviously his death. These individuals come to Imam al-Hussein and they say, Ya Aba Abdullah, we have come to join with you. Our other side, the other side of our tribe, has gone and joined with Muawiyah, as if that they were doing a favor for Abu Abdullah, that they were joining Abu Abdullah and doing him a favor. Imam al-Hussein, realizing this, he turns around and said, those that love us should not hope for a return from Allah subhanahu, should not hope for a return. Rather, those that love us for the sake of Allah are those who will be with us in heaven, and they will be so close to us. And then Imam places up his two fingers. He says, as close as these two fingers are to each other, those that love us for the sake of Allah will be this close to us in heaven. They love us because of the maqam Allah gave us. They don't remove Allah from the equation. They know that the wilayah taqweeniyah that the Ahlul Bayt have, if it is to control the sun, if it is to control the rain, if it is to control the thunder and the clouds and the blossoming of the flowers and the sweetening of the fruit, all of that is because Allah has allowed them to do so. That Allah has given them that authority, that they are able to operate within the dunya in such a way. When Sayyid al-Shuhada is leaving Mecca, and the khutbah that he gives, he turns there, and there are hundreds of people. The narrations say hundreds surround Sayyid al-Shuhada. They're all around him, listening, because they know he's starting a revolution. People are hoping that maybe they too can be part of this. They're hoping maybe they too can be, reaping some benefit. And so Sayyid al-Shuhada gives his khutbah. At the end of it, he says one line. He says, "Man kana bazilan muhjata wa muwattinan ala liqa'illah falyarhal ma'ana inni rahilun musbihan insha'Allah." He says, those of you that have made an intention to spend your blood in our way, and have made a firm intention to meet with Allah, then come with me, for tomorrow we are leaving Mecca in the morning. Those hundreds that surround Abu Abdullah now become only a handful of individuals that leave Mecca. Why? Because they realize that this is a one-way journey. They realize that at the end of this, there is no wealth. There is no hukuma, there is no place, there is no position. There is no kingdom. This is a one-way journey towards Allah. And they weren't ready for that. That love for Allah. That's what Imam is saying to these individuals. That those that love us for the sake of Allah will be with us on the Day of Judgment. In the book Tuhf al-Uqul, those of you that have it, there's an English translation as well that's available. This is a book that predates even Nahj al-Balagha. It has sayings of all of the Imams within it, but because it is written during Ghaybat al-Sughra, there is no narrations on it from Imam Zaman. There's no narrations from the Imam of our time. But rather they have an addendum at the end of it, which are like some of the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Hadith Qudsi to Nabi Musa and things like that. However, at the end of Tuhf al-Uqul, when they have a hadith that are related to, that have been said about the Imam, there is one narration that speaks about the Imam of our time. It says, the one who awaits the Hujjah. Now listen to this very carefully. It says, the one that awaits the Hujjah for the sake of his dunya is not from us. Meaning what? Those individuals that say when the Imam comes, we will do this and we will do this. I will be by the side of the Imam for the sake of the dunya. I'm going to do this to those that oppress the Shias. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do... It says the one that anticipates the arrival of his Imam based upon the dunya, his desires of the dunya, that person is not from us. It's a very deep hadith. Like, what am I awaiting my Imam for? When I think about it, what is it that I'm awaiting for? My own benefit? That I can go to him and say, Imam, this is the problem I've got in my life. This issue in my life. If Harith Hamadani could go to Amirul Mu'mineen, if someone else could go to Imam al-Rada and have all his debts wiped, why can't I have the opportunity to go and meet my Imam? Something to think about. That is the love for my Imam that I have for the sake of Allah, because Allah has bestowed them with that position, or is it for the Imam or for my own dunya or for my own benefit? One day one of the companions of the fifth Imam, Hakam ibn Utaybah, he says, I was sitting with the fifth Imam with a number of individuals, and a man walked in, an elderly man walked in, and he just done wudu, and he says the water of the wudu was still dripping from him. He walked up towards the fifth Imam, he said, Ya ibn Rasulillah, do you give me permission to say my aqeedah? Do you give me permission to recite for you my belief? What it is that I live my life for? And the Imam says, yes, recite. He says, my aqeedah is based upon three things. The first is that I love you and I love all those that love you. And I hate all those that hate you. Point one. The second thing, Ya ibn Rasulillah, is that I adhere to that which you have made halal, and I stay away from all that which you have made haram. This level of obedience, it might seem a simple statement, but how many times have we come across a narration and said, well, this doesn't make sense. Why would the Imam say this? I don't care if the sanad is sahih. Why would the Imam say this? Why would the Imam say, I don't know? Or why would the Imam, I don't believe it? Or why did the Imam say this was halal or haram? You know, it's fine in this society that I'm living in. There's no, for example, one of the easiest examples I can give you is shaking hands with a non-mahram. Or, as we have within our culture, hugging my cousin. Or showing, for the sister, showing my hair in front of my cousin. But he's like my brother. But he's not your brother. He's not your brother. There is adab for it. When the A'immah say something, this individual is saying, Imam, what you have made halal, I will always consider halal. What you have made haram, I will always consider haram. Although we give it lip service, at times our actions show something totally different. The Imams, Allah, forget the Imams, Allah has said in the Holy Quran, your mahram are these individuals. You may only show your hair, you may only have that level of freeness with these individuals that I have prescribed. And I'm not just saying it to the sisters, but also to the brothers. That the clothing that we wear in front of those that are not our mahrams, outside of our mother, outside of our grandmother, our paternal aunt, outside of our sister and our wife and our mother-in-law. What is the type of clothing that I wear in front of my cousins, my female cousins? When I see them on Eid, do I want to hug them? But she's like my sister. No, she's not. She's not your sister. So very often, that which is halal from Ahl al-Bayt, we make halal. No, but she's married to my brother. Oh, but she may be married to your brother, but doesn't make her your mahram. If your brother was to die, you can marry her. Doesn't make her your mahram. Says Imam, everything that you have made halal, I adhere to that. Everything that you have made haram, I abstain from that. And the third thing that I do, Ya ibn Rasulillah, is I await the faraj of the Qa'im of Ali Muhammad, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajuhu sharif. And it shouldn't shock us that even at the time of the fifth Imam, like from even the time of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Asbaq ibn Nubatal comes in on the day of Eid, he finds Amir al-Mu'mineen on the Musalla crying. He says, Wa shawqa ila ru'yati, wa shawqa ila ru'yati ashabi. How I wish I could see you. How I wish I could see your ashab. Asbaq ibn Nubatal says, Amir al-Mu'mineen, who are you crying for? Who do you want to see? He says, I'm crying for the Hujjah from amongst us. I'm crying for the Qa'im of Ali Muhammad that will come in the end. I desire to be amongst his companions. So every Imam was awaiting our Imam as well. Every Imam spoke about our Imam as well. Every companion. Forget our Imam, even the Anbiya prior. They spoke about Karbala, they spoke about the Aimma. You know, when the Hawariyun, Hazrat Isa says to his Hawariyun, there will come a time in a place called Karbala where the grandson of the final prophet shall call out and ask people for help. Oh my Hawariyun, if you are given life until that point and you hear the cry of Hussein ibn Ali, never turn your back on him. Make sure you go and you join him. So he says, the third thing that I do, Imam, is I await the faraj. I await the reappearance of the 12th. Imam al-Baqir says to him, come closer. He says, come closer to me. He says, let me tell you something. That someone came and said the same thing to my father, Imam al-Sajjad. And I want to say to you exactly what it is my father said to him. He said that know that at the time of your death, my grandfather Rasulullah shall come to aid you. Amir al-Mu'mineen shall come to aid you. Imam al-Hasan will come and Imam al-Hussein will come to aid you at the time of your death. And as Malak al-Maut is removing your soul from your body, they will tell Malak al-Maut, go easy with this individual. This is one of our lovers. This is one of our Shi'as. And your soul will come out from the body. For the believer, they say that when a person sees Malak al-Maut, the fear comes. He rips it from their body and the pain is every single nerve splitting, every single artery bursting. That's how bad that pain is. Says, but for the believer, Malak al-Maut will present them with a flower and say, smell this. And as they smell it, their soul will leave their body. He says, know that you will see my grandfather, you will see Amir al-Mu'mineen, you will see Imam al-Hasan, you will see Imam al-Hussein, and they will tell Malak al-Maut to go easy on this individual, for he is with us and he will take your soul nicely, and know that you will be with us in Jannah. The man says, Imam, may I come closer? Imam says to him, come. He takes the hands of Imam al-Baqir, he kisses them, he places them on his eyes, he rubs them on his body, and he walks away. Imam al-Baqir says, when Hakam says that when this individual was doing this, he was crying, and all those that surrounded Imam al-Baqir, they were also crying. He turns around, he walks. As he's leaving, Imam al-Baqir turns to each of us, the companions, and he says, Man arada an yanzura ila rajulin min ahli al-Jannah. Those of you that want to see a man from the people of Jannah, look towards that individual.
Narai Hadri.
So the first criterion is that one loves them for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second of the criteria is that one follows them, loves them, helps in their way without any desire for a return. We live in a society where we're always looking for return on investment. The amount of time I put in, I want to get something out of it. You know, there is no altruism. As a whole, even the whole idea of altruism, we now go on these gap years to go and work on some farm somewhere to help poor people. For what? It's part of my CPD. It's part of my continued professional development. Something I can put on my CV. That true altruistic nature that Islam inspired, that Islam promoted, that the Imams showed, no longer exists. Because everything is about what is it that I can gain? What is it that I can get out of this? This is the second criteria for you to love Ahlul Bayt, to have that true hubb of Ahlul Bayt, is that you do not want anything in return for it. You love them solely and solely because they are worthy of that love. Not that you want something in return. Gave you the example of Sa'id ibn Abdullah. Yesterday, when Abu Thamama Saydawi comes to the Imam on the day of Ashura, and he says to him, Imam, I wish to go out and fight, but I wish that my last salah be recited behind you in jama'ah. Imam says to him, Abu Thamama, may the mercy of God be upon you. جَعْلَكَ اللَّهُ مِنَ الْمُصَلِّينَ. May Allah place you and raise you amongst those individuals that are those that pray their salah. The salah happens, but Umar ibn Sa'ad won't stop the war. He's firing arrows. So individuals like Sa'id ibn Abdullah say to the Imam, we will stand in front of you. It's not an easy task to stand there and see an arrow come towards you and then meet it with your chest and your neck. These individuals that were there in Karbala, they were no ordinary individuals. Each of them had extraordinary abilities. Though they may have been on the wrong initially, of those examples that we gave you yesterday, though they may have been amongst those that were the enemies of Ahlul Bayt, but when they came over, what they displayed was extraordinary. Sa'id ibn Abdullah stands in front of the Imam. Arrows coming. We recite to every single ziyarah, Ya laytana kunna ma'akum. How we wish we were with you. Ya laytani kunna. How I wish I was with you. And if I was with you, I would have defended the Imam in the same way. They said there was an alim who always used to recite this. One night in a dream, he sees that he is there on the day of Ashura. An Imam is about to pray salah behind him. And so he says that I offered my service to the Imam that I will stand in front of you and defend you against any arrows. He says I stood in front of the Imam, the arrows were coming, and he says as every arrow came I flinched. He says when the salah had finished I turned around and saw that my Imam's body was riddled with arrows. He says after that point I realized that I have only been paying lip service to this religion. I've only been paying lip service to the cause of the Imam, not through actually believing what I'm saying. Sa'id ibn Abdullah is that individual that stands there. The arrows are coming, he meets every single arrow with his chest and his neck. Every single one of the arrows strikes his chest and his neck. The narration says when he fell, 13 arrows were embedded in the neck and the chest of Sa'id ibn Abdullah. Not one arrow reached Abu Abdullah. An arrow coming and you're running and you're catching it. What level of iman, what level of faith must a person have to be able to do that? When he falls to the ground, I said to you, the Imam took his head. Said to him, Sa'id, what can Hussein do for you? And he only says one thing, Awafaytu yabna Rasulillah. Have I been loyal to you? This is the one that gives his life, follows Ahlul Bayt with no hope on return on investment. When Habib ibn Madahir receives the letter of Imam al-Hussein in Kufa, Habib takes the letter, he leaves the house. As he is leaving Kufa, he finds at one of the market stalls Muslim ibn Awsajah standing there. He says to Muslim ibn Awsajah, Muslim, what are you doing? Says, I'm buying a dye, I'm buying henna for my beard. Says, Muslim, come with me. Let me take you to a place where such a dye will be applied to your beard that it will never leave until the day of judgment. The son of Zahra is alone in Karbala. The narration doesn't say that Muslim ibn Awsajah says, let me go home and get my things. There and then Muslim ibn Awsajah leaves Kufa with Habib ibn Madahir. Habib and Muslim reach Karbala together, leaving everything that they knew in Kufa. And when they reach to the plains of Karbala, and the day of Ashura dawns, I said to you about Abu Thamama Saydawi. When Abu Thamama says this to the Imam, and the Imam says to Abu Thamama, go and ask them for some time so that we can pray our salah. Abu Thamama says to him, and someone shouts back, at Abu Abdullah, says, Hussein, what are you praying for? Says, what are you praying for? Your salah is not going to be accepted, Hussein. He says this to Abu Abdullah. Says, your salah is not going to be accepted, Hussein. At that point, Habib ibn Madahir takes out his sword. He turns to Abu Abdullah, says, Yabna Rasulullah, this salah of mine, I will recite in heaven by the side of Rasulullah. And I will give your salam to Rasulullah and Amir al-Mu'mineen. And he goes out, he fights straight away, defending the salah of the Imam. He's killed there and then. But before him, Muslim ibn Awsaja dies. When Muslim falls and Habib goes with Imam Hussein to the body of Muslim, I said to you yesterday that Muslim ibn Awsaja, breathing his last, Habib says to him, Muslim, is there anything that I can do for you? He says, Habib, one thing. He takes the hand of Habib, he places it in the hand of Abu Abdullah. He says, until you are alive, defend him. Muslim ibn Awsaja wants nothing else. Doesn't want Jannah. Doesn't want saving from hell. He wants nothing. He says, just protect the Imam. This is why these individuals that are there are immortal. Anas ibn Harith. Anas ibn Harith is a companion of Rasulullah. But yet he arrives, Rasulullah dies when? 11 Hijri. Karbala happens when? 61 Hijri. 50 years pass. 50 years since the death of Rasulullah. Prior to the death of Rasulullah, there is somewhere amongst that time in Medina where Rasulullah, upon the birth of Imam al-Hussein, says to the people that this son of mine shall be killed in a land called Karbala. If you find yourself there and you hear his call, make sure you go by his side. Anas ibn Harith, 50-something years before Karbala, leaves Medina. He goes to Iraq. He finds the land of Karbala. He sets up a tent near Karbala and he lives there for 50 years. When Sayyid al-Shuhada enters the place of Karbala, he goes in front of him, Yabna Rasulillah, I heard your grandfather say 50 years ago that you would come and I have been waiting for you. And they say he's over 100, like Muslim ibn Awsaja, over 100 years old, so old that he had to tie up his eyebrows with a bandana to be able to fight. But to look at the way, I said these individuals, each and every one of them are exceptional in their ability. And they still live today because they wanted nothing in return. Karbala is a desert. Bedouins live there. What possessed Anas ibn Harith to leave the proximity of Rasulullah, to leave the proximity of Medina, to go all that way? It is that obedience towards this love, towards the obedience towards Rasulullah, with no desire for any return, but simple obedience towards the Prophet of God, towards Ahlul Bayt. Individual does not look for a return on investment. In the book Safinatul Bihar, Alama Majlisi, he brings a narration. He says that a group of individuals came to Imam al-Radha, or one individual came to Imam al-Radha, and he brought a lot of, it doesn't say whether it's sadaqah, zakat, khums, whatever. He brought it to Imam al-Radha to give to the Imam, a lot of it. And the Imam took the money, put it aside, said, thank you. He says, in my heart, I said to myself, I brought all this wealth for Imam al-Radha, and he hasn't acknowledged it. He hasn't said to me, well done, this is a lot of money, thank you, I'll help this many orphans, or, maybe have some tea or something. So he just took it. Says, I said this in my heart. And Imam al-Radha turns to his servant, he says, bring for me some water and a bowl. So they said, the bowl was brought in front of Imam al-Radha and a jug of water. Imam begins to wash his hands. He says, I saw the Imam washing his hands. As the drops of water fell, they turned to gold until they had filled this bowl. Imam al-Rada looks towards me and he says, do you think that we need this money? I am the individual that can turn water into gold. We don't need you to bring it towards us as if you're doing us a favor. Not doing us a favor. Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, he says, I was once in Mecca and Imam al-Sajjad is doing the tawaf. And he says, I went up to him and said, Imam, look, we didn't kill your grandfather Hussein. We didn't kill your father Hussein. No, we're different. They were different people. We can't give you the akhirah. But look, we have a lot of the dunya. So whatever you want, whatever money and things you want, come to us, we'll give you some money. Let us help you out. We can't help you in the akhirah, but at least we can help you in the dunya. They say Imam al-Sajjad took off his aba. He threw it like this on the ground. Abdul Malik bin Marwan, he stepped back in shock. Imam al-Sajjad picked up his aba, put it on, carried on doing his tawaf. The people that were surrounding Abdul Malik bin Marwan, they said, what is it? What shocked you so much? He says that the way when he took off his aba, he threw it on the ground. He says, I saw it filled with jewels and gold. He says, he picked it up and put it back on. He says, we do not need this. We don't need to do them a favor. What we do for Ahlul Bayt is not something that I should be hoping for a return on investment. Not from the people, not from Ahlul Bayt. I sponsor one majlis, and I want everyone to know that I did it. I give one niyaz, and I make sure that I know that everyone knows that I gave that niyaz. I hold one, or I recite one majlis, and I make sure everyone wants to listen and make sure that I show everyone that I recited one majlis. And then I turn around and I hope in the back of my head that I did this for Abu Abdullah. Surely he's going to do something for me. I sponsored this majlis. Surely he's going to do something for me. I gave the niyah. Surely something's going to come back. Or then the worst of that is that I do this, I recite this, I give something in the way of Ahlul Bayt, and then I start thinking, or I start telling people about it. I did it. I sponsored it. It was my family, or did you hear my majlis? Alhamdulillah, it was like, you should have seen the naras, mashallah. Yeah? You should have seen how people, they all come to me and they're all hugging me, and alhamdulillah, they all loved me. These individuals, Yawm al-Qiyamah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will call out, where are the people of self-conceit? Where are the people that were obsessed with themselves? That were obsessed with their actions? That they told everyone about the amal that they had done? They told everyone about what they had done? These people will come out, saying, now go to those people who you started bragging in front of. Go to them. Go and ask them for your reward. Say, Allah, we can't. I mean, they've got nothing. Everyone's practically naked on this day. On the day of judgment, half of the people will be naked. So they've got nothing to give. What are they going to give me? It says in the dunya, you did it for them. For you, there's no reward here. You did it, you started it off good. But then when you went round telling everyone, when you went round trying to make yourself out like the big man, so all of it is wasted. Go. Yawm al-Qiyamah, go and ask them for it. When I recite a majlis, when I recite a qasida, when I recite a nawha, and I think, oh yeah, people are liking this, so I add more of that in there. I recite fada'il. I'll give my own example. I recite fada'il, the fada'il of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says we give thawab to the one that listens, the one that recites, the one that hears it. You know, all of this, we give it, the one that reads it. There is fada'il of Amir al-Mu'mineen, they have thawab. But now if I'm reciting here, and I recite one fada'il, and I think, oh, everyone likes it, good naras. Yeah, so I think, oh, let me throw another one in. Now I've thrown this part up until this point. It was qurbatan ila Allah. It was for Allah. My reward was on Yawm al-Qiyamah. My reward was with Ahlul Bayt. My reward was with Allah. But the moment I changed and went, let me recite one more for the person, for these individuals that are listening. Now that became riyah. Everything that I had, gone. Everything that I had, gone. All the thawab that I would have earned, gone. Why? Because I did it for the wawa of the people. I did it for the naras of the people. And so it all became wasted. The second criteria of Hubb Ali Muhammadin, the love of Ali Muhammad, is that an individual does not hope for a return. They do it solely and solely in servitude of Ahlul Bayt. And why should they not? Because Ahlul Bayt gave so much for this deen. I said to you yesterday that a son like Ali Akbar, who's killed, and the Imam is saying that this is that son of mine, أشبه الناس خلقا وخلقا ومنطقا لرسولك. It's this son of mine that looks and resembles Rasulullah. This is that household that gave everything in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And even after the event of Ashura, they continued to give. That Sham-e Ghaiba that passed over the ladies of Ahlul Bayt, none can understand it except Zainab and Kulthum. Or as that day of Ashura began to set and the Asr passed, and the first question that Sayyidah Zainab asks Imam Sajjad, often we hear that she said to Imam Sajjad that, Sajjad, should we stay within the tents or should we go out? But the actual question, or the question before that Zainab asked Sajjad, is that they said they heard the sound of breaking glass in Karbala. And Sajjad, she came to Imam Sajjad, she said, Sajjad, I heard the sound of breaking glass. Sajjad, what is that sound? He says, oh Zainab, they have started trampling the body of my father, Abi Abdullah. They have started running horses. That sound you heard was the sound of the ribs of my father being broken under the hooves of the horses. The 11th of Muharram dawns, and the daughters of Ali and Fatima are tied up, and one by one made to mount upon camels without saddles. And they say Zainab went and she aided all the women until Zainab was all alone. Nazarat shimalan wa yamina. Zainab looked to her left and she looked to her right. And then she cried out, Wa Abbasa, Wa Akbara, Wa Husayna, where are you all? When I entered into Karbala, when I left Medina, all of you around me. Now who is there to help Zainab ascend upon this camel? They say they heard the jangling of chains, and Sajjad comes forward. Oh, Aunt Zainab, Sajjad will help you mount upon the camels. Then they take the camels through where the bodies of the shuhada were. And as the camels passed through, they say that Zainab saw in the distance that pile where there were stones around it, arrows sticking out of it, spears sticking into it. She says that they say that Zainab saw it and she threw herself from the camel onto the ground. You see, whenever I recite this, I have to explain. Look, when Abbas fell, we cry for Abul Fadl Abbas, and Abbas fell, he had no arms. But Abbas was a man and he fell from his horse. When Ali Akbar fell, Ali Akbar was a man and he fell from a horse. But look at Zainab. Zainab is a woman and she's falling from a camel and her hands are tied around her neck. How do you think Zainab fell to the earth of Karbala? They say Zainab fell upon her face and now she falls. They say Zainab stood and she ran. Then Zainab would sit again, and then stand again and run again and then sit again. They say, why is it Zainab ran and sat? Say one of the reasons could be that Zainab was tired from Sham-e Ghariba. that all night she stayed awake with the children of Abi Abdullah, that now when Zainab would run, she was tired and she'd had to sit. They say the second reason is that when the body of Abu Abdullah was trampled by the horses, the limbs of Abi Abdullah became scattered upon the earth of Karbala. Now as Zainab ran, she came across a limb of her brother, and she would sit down and kiss it until she reaches her brother. And now they say Zainab stood there. She addresses it, Anta akhi, are you my brother? Are you the light of the eyes of Zainab? Then Zainab turns towards Medina. She says, Ya Jadda, salli alayka malaikatu as-sama, wa hadha Husaynuka murammalun bid-dima, muqatta'u al-a'dha, maslub al-amamati wal-rida, wa banatuka as-sabaya. She says, oh grandfather, you are the one who the angels of heavens would come and send salams to. Oh grandfather, here lies your son Hussein, covered in his own blood, his body cut to pieces, his amama and his clothing stolen from his body, and your daughters, oh my grandfather, are being taken prisoner. Zainab sits upon the body, sits next to the body, she cries upon the body of Abi Abdullah. Who will remove Zainab? Who will tell Zainab to get up? There is no one there. When Ali Akbar fell, they say when Abu Abdullah began crying, فَرَفَعَ صَوْتَهُ بِالْبُكَاءِ, Hussein's voice became loud. Then Hussein fell silent, and he fell silent upon the body of Ali. They say we thought Hussein had died. Who is there to help Hussein? They say we saw a woman dressed in black come running out from the tents of Abi Abdullah. Zainab came out. She came to say to her brother, oh Hussein, accept the condolences of Zainab. Oh Hussein, accept the condolences for Ali. But now Zainab is on the body of Hussein. Who will console Zainab? Who will tell Zainab, come up from the body of Hussein? There is no one to aid her. It is only Shamar and the whips of Shimar. لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. مات من حسين.